Probably not a surprise to you, but I don't like to be in hospital or go to the hospital. Do you? I'm sure many of you feel the same way, right? But why? Why is it that we hate the hospitals so much? Or is it just a fact of life we have to live with? Is it a crappy food? Is it the expensive market? Is it is it the incentive smell? Or is the fear of the known? Well, it's all of that, and it's more. Patients often have to travel long distances to get their nearest hospital, right? And access to hospital care is becoming more and more an issue in rural areas in the US, but also sparsely populated countries like Sweden. And even when hospitals are more abundant, typically the poor and elderly have trouble getting care because they lack transportation that is convenient and affordable. And many people are avoiding hospital care altogether, and they miss getting proper treatment due to cost. We see that 64% of the Americans are avoiding care due to cost. And even we do uh, we do get treatment. Hospitals often make us sicker. Medical errors are reported to be third cause of the death in the US, just behind cancer and heart disease. The third cause of death. I'm in healthcare for over 20 years, and I witness every day how broken and how obsolete our hospital system is. Let me give you two examples. 4 in 10 Japanese medical doctors and 5 in 10 American medical doctors are burned out. In my home country, the nervous, only 17 million people live there. We're short 125 nurses over the coming years. But how did we even in this idea of placing all kinds of sick people together in one big building? Well, we have to go back in the ancient Greek. In 400 BC, temples for core we were erected where people could go to get their diagnosis, their treatment, and their healing. And then, really, about 1,000 years, we've seen religious care centers all the way up to industrial revolution, where we've seen hospitals being set up as assembly lines based on principles of an industrial revolution to produce efficiently and get a product, patients in this case, out of the hospital as soon as possible. Of the last century, we've seen lots of interesting innovation. We figured out how to make insulin. We invented pacemakers and X-ray, and we even came into his wonderful and new area of cell and gene. But the biggest change to fix our hospital system altogether is still ahead of us, right? And I believe it's time now. We have opportunity to revolutionize the system altogether and forget about our current hospital system. I believe it's time to create a new system that revolves around healthcare at home. Recent research has shown that 46% of hospital care can move to the patient's home. That's a lot. And that mainly for those patients who suffer from chronic diseases. With that, hospital can and should reduce to smaller, agile, and mobile care centers focused on acute care, right? So the things like neonatology, intensive care, surgery, and imaging will still remain at the hospitals, at the least I believe, for the foreseeable future. A few weeks ago, I met a colleague whose mom was diagnosed with incurable cancer. And she said, Nils, it's hard. It's so hard when we know that she's got only months to live. Instead of playing with the grandchildren, she now has to travel 3 times a week, 2 hours upon down Amsterdam just to get her treatment and tests. And that really breaks my heart because we'll all know we'll, uh, we all know that the professional nurse could draw her blood at home as well, right? And if she could get her tests and treatment and at home as well, she could do the things that really important to her in her last months. My own mom, 82 years old now, God bless her. She's avoiding to go to hospital because she finds it difficult to plan and manage this journey. So my sisters and I, we help her out. But there are many elderly people who are avoiding care and are waiting that long that it become life threatening, and it's straight to costly intensive care. Dr. Convincere and researcher at the University of California, he concludes that a third of patients over 70 and more than half of patients over 85 leave the hospital more disabled than when they may. And a very practical problem that many patients face when they have to go to hospital is, where do I go with my main companion in life? Where do I go with my dog? That's our dog, by the way. It's a cute. But it's not only about convenience, it's also about unnecessary health care, stays and costs. A friend of mine, Hart, he recently needed to be hospitalized for just a minor and had to stay in hospital for over 2 weeks just because he needed a specific kind of IV so he occupied a bed for 2 weeks that cost over €1,000 a day. It's just ridiculous, and these costs are really at heart of issue. So we've seen over many of our healthcare expense grow as percent of GDP over the last years. So here we see that of the last 15 years, 50 years, healthcare expense has grown from about 5% in Germany, about 11% now. In the US, we've seen growth from 6% to over 70% now, and a large portion of these costs are driven by investments in large, shiny hospital buildings, and these buildings are not flexible, and they maintain a system where hospital beds need to for a hospital to run efficiently. There is no incentive for a hospital to run with less beds. Just as the thought of that makes sick, right? And here's the thing: the costs from treating my bodily art and at home can be up to 10 times cheaper than hospital care, and that is where we're headed. The hospital bed of future will be in our own homes, and it's already starting. Global home care is growing 10% years over a year, and from my own experience, I see that logistics and technologies are making these home healthcare solutions work. Technology is already allowing us to do things that were once inclusive to hospitals. Diagnosis tests like blood, glucose tests, urine tests can now taken in comfort of our home, and more connected devices we see like pacemakers and insulin pumps that will proacti- pro- pro- proactively signal, and all that technology is coming together in much more insights into patients' health, and that insight well of information leads to better control and to less medical errors. Remember, the third cause of death in the US, and I see every day at work. I work in logistics, and for me, home health care works. So we, a delivery driver, deliver the medicine to the patient's home. A nurse joins home and actually administers at the patient's home, right? It's that simple. Remember my body art, he can now get the IV in the comfort, no hospital pajamas, no crappy food, and no risk of these antibiotic resistant superbugs that only bit you in this hospital and goes further. So the elderly people can get the treatment in comfort in their own home, well, with their best companion in life. And there is no need anymore to drive hours and hours just to get your treatment and tests.